It's a foreign government that we have in this country. Which is why what we're going to talk about next is a bit of a double-edged sword and tightrope to walk on, because I think people have valid points. People who are bringing up criticisms of what this person had to say, and also then understanding the wider point that's being made, and even so saying that it wasn't the best take. Admittedly, the take where it was a 14-year-old girl having to defend herself from foreign attackers, from foreign predators, was not the best example to use to make this argument, potentially. But nonetheless, the argument still stands. That, feminism and the rejection of everything that made our society what it was, that would have prevented everything that we're seeing now, and our adoption of it and our religious-like adherence to it, has created the problems. And namely, there's a certain group that are now clamoring for protection from groups that they spent years demonizing for simply wanting to do the basic things of contributing to their society and contributing to their families, right? They were demonized, called evil oppressors for wanting to do basic things that were morally good, right? Woe to those who call good evil and evil good. And then when the shit hits the fan, when you start reaping the poison fruit, you start running to those people to protect you from what's coming next. That's the point, in my opinion, that Andrew was making when he said this about this incident. The problem is that now the post itself is unavailable for whatever reason. I'm not sure whether Andrew took it down or whatever, but I did actually, I'll see if I can pull it up now. Oh, that was the wrong one. I did give my 2 cents on it, because I think a lot of people, I understand why they would get so angry about it. So Andrew basically said, I was quoting saying, men come and protect us, no, reap what you sow. And it was a picture of the young girl. So again, not the best example, but nonetheless, the point still is worth going over. And that is that I'm going to read out his post that he made, quoting his post originally in a moment, and we got some examples to further corroborate it. Is that women want men's help against men. They don't have the requisite force to protect themselves and are like lambs to the slaughter. I often ask what women could do if men decided to put them in rape cages. What could they do about it? Well, the UK is an example of a giant rape cage, and it turns out they can do very little. Now, instantly, people are going to think that Andrew is advocating for women to be put in rape cages. Obviously, that's not the point that's being made. The point is just a very stark and, I suppose, different way of wording the regular point, that is, men and women are not the same. Men and women are not the same, and men have certain advantages that make them more suited to do certain things in society. And women, namely, have certain things that make them more suited to doing certain things in society as well. And the reason feminism has been so destructive is that it completely inverted those and pit men and women against each other, when previously they were working together to create a good, prosperous society, with the nuclear family being the bedrock of that society, a nuclear family accountable and made in the eyes of God, that was the bedrock of a virtuous and prosperous society. And many people now are going to say that, well, this is Andrew justifying everything that's going on in the UK. It's a very, it's just somebody not showing sympathy for the bed that we made ourselves, right, in many instances, from greater adoption of the feminist movement and stuff like that. Where it does get tangled up, however, is that especially in the last 15 years, at a bare minimum, people saw the problems, people saw the writing on the wall and stuff like that, and people actively voted against it, and that vote was not adhered to. So this is where I understand people then having very valid criticisms of this, because we actually did, in many instances, we actually did try to vote against it. And you do have, however, just in a moment, particularly women, particularly feminist women, the down with the patriarchy, those kind of demonizing men types who want to do just the basic things, and understanding that men and women have duties, roles, responsibilities, right? And dare say that women would have to do the same, right? They're not empowering the boss babes, so to speak. Now they're reaping what they're sowing. And in many instances, you're an adult, you voted for this, right? Why should we show you any sympathy, right? You're getting what you wanted. It's forced doctrine, as he points out. It's forced doctrine. And girls with daggers aren't going to stop it. I'm quoting from Andrew now. These are not my words. I'm quoting from Andrew. Women spearhead the empathy side of politics, and this is what the natural conclusion of Western egalitarianism and empathy-first policies. You can be mad at me all you want, but I will tell you a truth that isn't fun to confront. Women have removed, quote unquote, the protectors from their lives and girl boss and, quote, the need no man, unquote. They removed fathers from the homes of their children and demanded to be equal in political enfranchisement. When shit goes wrong, they instantly demand men come and save them from their plight. Hard to argue. Hard to argue in many instances. Because many of these people, some of Andrew's interactions with Julie Bindel, for example, spring to mind on Piers Morgan, where, again, Julie Bindel will be all men, not looking in the mirror in any way. And that's why I think for all of the evil that has been done to us that is outside of our control, we do need, as individuals, this is going to come from as individuals, looking in the mirror and understanding where we went wrong. And that's the main point that's being made here. That's the main point that's being made here. Because he actually says, truth is, the men in the UK don't have too much fear, right? And many of them don't, okay? Some of them are rightfully concerned that what will happen is they'll get arrested and they'll get taken away from their families, and that will make them all the more defenseless, right? By the Stasi political police force that we have, right? That could happen, which is stopping some from doing it. But those who in many instances have no choice, they're an animal backed up against the wall, they really have no choice. They're chomping at the bit to go after these people. Make no mistake, people are the most radicalized they've ever been, especially young men in these areas, especially young men. They want to take the fight. Make no mistake about it. Because the immigrants themselves, if you look at them in many instances, are generally weaker and aren't raping men. Some of them are, right? We've covered an instance, I believe it was outside a church. I think it was either in Britain or possibly in France. I can't remember exactly, where a 60-year-old man was raped by another migrant man, I believe it was. Men have already got together in many parts of the nation that collectively kick the shit out of the immigrant population if it looks at them cross-eyed, like the soccer hooligans. It's the women who need to be afraid, and they are afraid. The only thing is then they won't take the necessary step, seemingly a lot of them won't, and realize that they also have played a part in this. By getting what they want, they played a part in this, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with that because they're not equipped in most instances to deal with it. It's the thing, the average man is going to be stronger than the average woman by orders of magnitude. Right. And you will get, exceptionally strong women, for example, women who are wired differently and all of these things. But the exception doesn't prove the rule. And we shouldn't be making the rule for society based on the exceptions. And that's what we have been doing. That's why our population has declined. That's why the family structure, you say anything now about, maybe we should aspire to have good family structures. People in my community, for example, and people recoil as if you've read them the fucking gospel. People recoil as if you've read the gospel to a demon a lot of the time. Because this egalitarian framework has become so ingrained that, again, it just sits in your mind like a religious dogma you don't even think about. But the minute somebody says anything that encroaches on it, you react as if you're, somebody's said something awful about your loved one, for example, right? And the fact of the matter is, at least from the way I see it, again, this implies that everyone is being morally virtuous and upright and understanding their roles and responsibilities. A morally upright, to a large extent, ethnically homogenous, right, patriarchal society is the best antidote for these kinds of things. But many people aren't willing to admit that. That's the point that Andrew was making. Maybe, at least the way I see it, maybe just not the best post to do it on when it's a 14-year-old girl. And it's a 14-year-old girl, because many people then misconstrued him saying that, oh yeah, the 14-year-old girl comes to the father, father, help me. And then they go, oh no, you deserve to be raped. He's not saying that. And if you know anything about Andrew and his family, you know that they've experienced tragedy. It's one of the things I said in my post. They've experienced not necessarily things that are related to this, but they've been open about it and how, they lost one of their children. They lost one of their sons in a freak accident, right? They lost one of their sons in a freak accident when he was over a friend's house, right? So they are no stranger to tragedy when it comes to children. They've had it in their own family, right? So they're not wishing, at least from what I can see, any, ill will, any tragedy any disgusting atrocity to come upon these girls, literally saying a lot of the people that are now clamoring, being like, where are all the good men gone, you know, so to speak, are the ones that directly brought this upon themselves. And unless they're now going to understand their part in it, they should basically shut the fuck up and lie in the bed that they made, or reap the poison fruit that they spent so long sowing, despite the warnings, the numerous warnings that they were given that they did not want to heed, because they thought they were so holier than thou and enlightened in their progressive pursuits, which ironically have turned us into more of a Stone Age society than a modern, you know, in any way, shape or form, utopian one. And he is right in many instances. Here are some examples, right, of women in particular who are some of the most ardent acolytes of the anti-British, suicidally empathetic ideology that has spawned a lot of the things now that they're clamoring for men to defend them from. Makes you think, why? Why should men go out to the street and get mauled by a pack of foreign dogs, essentially, right, with how they jump on people in mass numbers and literally, you know, maul the shit out of them in many instances, right? I'm using dogs as a metaphor here. Obviously, no doubt I'll probably get taken down for that, right? No doubt the police probably at my door for saying that. But when they descend on a person like a pack, right, and they all band together on their own sectarian bases, right? Why should a man go and fight and die and put himself in that situation for a woman like this, right? Which is a worldview that this woman is going to espouse now, is what a lot of women share.
So now that I've seen English flags everywhere, the Union Jack, make Britain again, that I've seen all over Facebook. I'm going to say something to you. Britain has never been British. Britain has always been based on other cultures, countries, influence of immigrants. But now you've got absolutely everything that you can get from immigrants. You've robbed off them. You've took absolutely everything that they have. You want to send them back. And that's what Britain's about, robbing off other cultures. Immigrants put our kids in danger. No, they don't. White British people just do the exact same things that immigrants do, but it's just never in the media. You want to know why it's never in the media? Because the media knows what it's doing. It doesn't want to make the hero look bad. I'm not saying all immigrants are good people, but not all white British people are good people either, and this is what people need to get in their head. Why aren't people getting this vocal?
She's so close yet so far. Because as we know, ladies and gentlemen, the media never hesitate to jump on a story where there's a horrendous white perpetrator or whatever. They never, ever hesitate. Not to mention there's none of the constraints around, you know, prejudicing trials or anything like that when it comes to a regular white British person that there is for some reason when it comes to some foreign national or whatever, or some import, some second generation, import or whatever, like Axel Rudicabana, right? The media will circulate all manner, right? And this is the thing. I'll see if I can find the post in a moment of how the media reports it. Let me see if it came up. Let me see if I can find it. I won't be able to find it, but it came up and it says how the media reports, you know, wasters basically when it is a white person versus when it is you know, a foreigner when it comes to degeneracy. And it was basically they'll call the white person a degenerate when it's an old man, right? It's an old man who sat there in the like a train carriage, for example, and it's a close-up of his face and he's got his head down in his phone or whatever, and you know, he looks stereotypically like an old racist ugly white person basically. But then they won't report it being a degenerate when a foreigner walks onto a train and exposes himself in front of a bunch of women, children, and families, right? So this is the thing. This is how the media will report it, but they don't hesitate. They don't hesitate to jump on the case when it is something that suits their political agenda. So she is right. The media knows what they're doing, but she's completely wrong in the application. But again, this person has just as much of a say in determining the fate of everybody else as anybody else does, right? And quite clearly she's operating from a completely false framework, and not to mention a suicidally empathetic, country-destroying, you know, framework. And she's not alone. She's not alone, which this video will also show you now, ladies and gentlemen, where you have these three females, presumably it's hard to tell in the case of one of them, that have been brainwashed again into hating their own flag, right? The flag that their previous generations fought and died under for the very freedom that they are using to disparage them now, right? So they tear it down from a lamppost and spend time stamping on it and all the rest of it. And I start understanding now, when you see things like this, why so many people now have turned, like, for example, Matt Walsh, whether you agree with the stance or not, have turned now and changed their mind on flag burning, for example, because they've seen that it's a blatant double standard. If you were to do this with a pride flag, right, or any other kind of minority flag, right, if it's a flag for anti-racism or whatever, or if you were to do this with the Indian flag or the Pakistani flag or whatever other flag it is, you get pulled up on a hate crime, but you can do it with the Union Jack and St. George's Cross and Welsh flag and whatever else, and it's perfectly fucking fine. I'm not okay with that double standard. None of us should be. Okay, if it's not okay to desecrate one, right, if one is protected, all is protected. That's the way that it should be. If one is protected, all is protected. And if one is not protected, then all should be unprotected, so to speak, with regards to flags and stuff like that. But you wonder why we're in so much trouble that we're in. This is large aspects of the young generation. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the flag is actually slightly ripped anyway, but they jump up, barely manage to reach it, and they pull it down. They pull it down. That's what I mean. You can see the one, it's kind of hard to tell. Presumably it's three ladies, but it's kind of hard to tell. Throws it on the ground and spends time stamping on it. I hope they feel better. Whatever's going on, I just hope they feel better. Because it's making no difference, right? It's making no difference. Make no mistake. With how much they're seeing it's having an effect, with how much they're seeing it's angering people like this, right? People go out and pull those flags back up. Make no mistake about it. And rightfully so. And rightfully so. It's only going to radicalize people more and more and more. But this is an example, as George Orwell pointed out, of people that spend no end of time posting this in the comments now. It says, it's always the women, above all the young ones, who are the most bigoted adherents of the party, the swallowers of slogans, the amateur spies. Exactly what you're seeing now. They had the distinctive uniforms in 1984. In this instance, you're seeing whatever, ragtag of maybe JD Sports or whatever it is, get up they can throw together. But these are the kinds of people that will spell the downfall of our society. And we wonder why, for example, young men see this and, they don't want to get married to these people. They don't want to spend any time around these people, especially young men. This is the thing that Jordan B. Peterson pointed out. The more egalitarianism has forced, this equality, if you will, or equity or equalization between men and women in all of these aspects, the more it's magnified the differences, right? So egalitarianism in the way that it's been put forward has been so dangerous. It's made, because it's removed men and women's complementarity to each other, it's rendered them so different. That's why young people struggle with dating nowadays. That's why all of these things, because they don't understand what their role, responsibility, and ultimate authority in the matter is, right? Because it's been deliberately removed from them. Never forget what they stole from you if you're part of the young generation. And it's up to you to fight for it to get it back. It's up for us to fight for it to get it back. Okay? That's why the voice and actions are very, very important. For all the people that say your voice is not important, make no mistake, it is. Make no mistake, it is. That's why I thank you guys again for helping me with getting my voice out there in the hope that, as I said, this will form the basis for a long time run in the battle that we're in. If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.